Interview with Kristie Goforth.
Hi everyone, I am Michaela. I'm with Kristie Goforth. She is running for mayor in Monona.
Hi everybody! Thanks,
Yeah.
Michaela. So nice to see you.
Yeah, I am super excited.
My dog Milo getting involved.
So I'm really excited regarding this because I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, you
for
do. Those were good
the
questions.
Mayor and for city council, I'm always full of questions, but I did limit to 11.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start off. First off, the basic question is, why do you want to be mayor for Monona?
Oh, yeah. Well, mine, it kind of goes back to it kind of goes back to my background.
Yeah.
I grew up on this island in Lake
Yeah.
Huron as the kid who sometimes had to take a snowmobile for 13
Yeah.
miles to get to school.
Yeah.
And a very small town. And just, given my circumstances, being Ojibwe and raised by a single mom in poverty, no one really had any expectations for me.
Oh.
And all of that really fueled me to be successful, really just to
Yeah.
prove them wrong.
To keep, pushing forward.
Yeah, right. Because I had expectations for myself, but it seemed like no one else did. They just,
Okay.
you can't do that. You won't be able to do that,
Yeah.
And so that really fueled me. And then, now that I'm here and I've done so many different roles in Monona, I've
Yeah.
served on school district committee.
Yeah.
I was an alder.
Uh-huh.
I ran our chamber. I've done so much work here that I just feel like this is the next logical step for me.
That makes sense.
And and I think my role as a Dane County Parks Commissioner also, like thinking about our new park and working very connected and close with Dane County is just a great asset for us and something that I can leverage. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you feel like you have the background to be prepared for this position.
Yeah, I do. And, and it's really that I'm a helper.
Yeah.
And I'm driven by a spirit of helping others. And so to have this opportunity, even just to have my name on the ballot is amazing to me that because I see this as an opportunity to be able to help a lot of people.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to move into the actual questions, the gritty,
Ready.
the nitty-gritty. Okay, so I'm really excited, guys. So the first one is, to be a valuable leader, you have to be an experienced team player.
Absolutely.
And with that being, how do you plan to have a balance between delegating tasks yet retaining responsibility?
Oh, yeah.
As a mayor.
Yeah, and it's tricky, and it's always about balance for me. And so I think because of the skills I bring forward, so I have a background in urban planning and economic development, and knowing that our staff right now, we're kind of on a skeleton crew because we struggled to make our budget this year.
Yes.
We were about 125,000 short, so we had to cut a position, and we don't have a city administrator.
Okay.
And we have a lot going on in our planning department, so a lot of developments being planned and coming to the table, which is fantastic. We absolutely need that.
Yeah.
And so I see myself as partly as a mayor. My plan is, if I win, or when I win. My people keep telling me I should say when I win.
Yeah.
On Tuesdays, because that's a day I always take off for free bikes for kids, I'll go to City Hall and I will just be a float employee. So if our planner needs help, he needs copies, whatever.
Yeah.
If the public works department needs their sidewalk shoveled, I'll do that. So I'll just be kind of a floating employee to help and support them however I can, because they're the hands, and the boots on the ground, and they're our local experts here, And so I see my role as not only as a leader, but really as someone that supports them and empowers them to do their job in the best way possible. And it's really hard when you're very stretched thin.
Yeah.
But I think, I'm a person, when it comes to team playing, I love to hear all the voices, and everyone's voice matters.
Yes.
And I think I'm very open to critical thinking and feedback so we can make the best decisions. And I'm open to people disagreeing with me. And so some of the best conversations I have is when people email me, in a slightly hostile tone, and I respond, and then we get some good conversation going.
Okay.
I'm that person. I'm open to that. And so, and I'm also, even though I might not seem tough because I'm this smiley girl, the way I was raised, I had someone apologize to me about his kind of, nasty email. And I was like, it's okay. I can take it.
Yeah.
And it makes me, once again, fuels me to have more conversation with you, because I bet we can find more things in common than not. So, I guess maybe, hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
Does. So from what I got from that is that you're a problem solver and you like to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
You are. And I just, I kind of always have this mindset of respect, empower, and include.
Definitely.
And then I'm also highly accessible. Because I'm out in the community a lot. I like to make myself accessible.
Yeah.
My campaign literature will have my telephone number on it, so people can reach out to me for a conversation.
Yeah.
All these conversations on social media, it's just not effective. I feel like it's kind of destroying our ability to have good conversations. Yeah, like constructive conversations.
Like it's less genuine.
Yeah. Because like all these body cues are in my room, right? Like, I can feel your warmth right now. I can, and all of that. And so when you have that erased, I think sometimes people can come across as angry, or you can misunderstand and there's some miscommunication that can happen. So face-to-face conversations, the way it's, or on a phone.
Well, thank you for elaborating on that.
Absolutely.
And then I do want to continue on to regarding to with the details of San Damiano.
Yeah.
So in 2021, from my understanding, Monona gained an asset called San Damiano Park. And with that being said, I understand there's a whole plan, and we are in the master plan phase, which is the final phase, if I'm correct.
I think it's this kind of the start. Let's say it's the start. Okay. We've purchased. Now, they'll probably, I believe what's the next steps is they'll be throwing out a few different concepts. One concept includes the home.
Okay.
One concept is removing the home. Okay. And then one concept is including the home, but doing something different with it.
Okay.
So I believe that's what it's okay.
I have not been updated. My bad.
It's okay.
So with that being said, as mayor, how do you take the research and the feedback from the community and make sure that doesn't get lost in the finalization? Yeah, super duper important. And this is we have a few hot button issues, and this I would say is one. Yeah.
We hear from a lot of people in the community that are like, oh, fabulous, yes, we need another park, we need more space, this land is beautiful, it's amazing, there's no doubt about that. Milo. And then there's the people who are like, we were left out of this decision, why didn't we get a voice?
Got it.
And so when I was on city council and I voted to approve the purchase. I absolutely believe the city had to purchase that to get control of that. Otherwise, really, any developer could buy it. And then now we're, bound by the legal structure of our state and our country that they have rights and they can move projects forward.
Exactly.
And then, but, that means then we're not in control of the project. And, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
But so, when we voted to approve it, one of the things was there was a requirement that we would have a referendum on the ballot so we could hear from the constituents and what they wanted.
Okay.
And so it is kind of challenging right now because you hear all these people, coined as the squeaky wheels, and then the people who are, please keep it as a park, keep it as green space. But we don't know what the community, what do the majority of people want?
Yeah.
And that's really important to know as a leader. So one thing, I definitely would like to see an advisory referendum. It's getting a little late into the process. We're now moving into master planning, and I think that's another way that my leadership is different is, we've owned it. It'll be 2 years on June 1st, and we've had one public input session. So I think if I were at the table, I would think we would have at least 3 by now.
Be more periodic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And especially before we even go into the master planning. Let's utilize the brilliant people in our community. We have a lot of them that architects, these incredible folks that have been involved in projects statewide and all over the world even. who could have probably given us some great feedback and input and kind of reduced our cost of that master planning.
Okay.
It's really pricey, and it's about half of our fundraising, I believe, for the park is going toward master planning now. So we've raised around $300,000 for the park, and I think the master planning is about $150,000, I believe, if I'm correct. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for going into such details about that. Yeah. Because I was not aware of it. I'm just kind of really confused as a resident.
Yeah, and so that's a great point, and I really want to see a little more transparency. I think if you were to ask the average person how much fundraising has been done, what's that number, I don't think most people would know. So it's last I heard was it's right around 300,000 since we purchased.
Well, to be fair, even if they did put the numbers out, numbers are numbers. Like it comes in one ear and out the other.
And there's so much information and noise out there. Someone would really have to be seeking it out, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see a ticker on the website, on the Friends of San Damiano website that shows us. You've seen it. It's like a thermometer.
Yeah.
And it shows us where it's at. I think that would be a really helpful tool.
Okay. Yeah.
But the plan is once this master plan comes forward, then because I think a lot of people have been struggling with donating because they're like, we don't know what you want to do with it. We don't know what we're donating for. And so it helps kind of create a vision at least in some direction.
Yeah, a purpose.
Exactly. Okay. But I think, rightfully so, I think there are a lot of people that are really concerned about the finances of the project. And, it is a major undertaking, a major acquisition for us, right?
Yeah.
As a city with about an $8.5 million annual budget. So it was more than that. And we hadn't really planned on it. And one last thing I'd like to talk about is I was kind of surprised when I was on city council how infrequently we talked about our finances as council members. And I think there are, not all council members have financial backgrounds, and I don't have a financial background, but I've led multiple organizations. I've owned a business, and when you run a nonprofit, the structure is very similar to government. You have all these boards and committees, and you're working together to make decisions and come to consensus. But not everyone does, and so I think one thing I'll do is I'll make sure every council meeting, or at least once a month, the council members will get a financial report. So then the education and empowerment is there, right? And we have better information. We're better equipped to make those decisions.
Okay.
My dog's making a lot of noise, and that's good. I'm gonna just step out for 1 second. Sit. Good. Why don't you come up here and lay down? Okay.
Yeah. So, and then let's move on to my next question, which is, as a community, we strive to be diverse and, with equal opportunities. But to be honest, given the fact that Monona is predominantly white, right?
Yeah.
How do we open ourselves as mayor? How would you want the community to evolve on being open to other cultures and being more being more
inclusive,
inclusive,
or welcoming, providing some feeling of belonging, all of those, right? Yeah, I think I've already done a good amount of work in that in my role at the chamber. One of the things when I took that job, I was really like, wow, I'm in a room of 100% white people, and I was kind of surprised a little bit because Madison's right across the street from my house, so I started right away. I started that business and diversity luncheon series, which was exposure, education, making connections and letting people know what other diverse leaders are doing in our community. Then, the other part was kind of the street art, which I know some people don't like that. And art is very subjective. It's like music. Not everyone's going to like the same style. But you know what? These are huge opportunities for our businesses who are sponsoring those artists. And it's their right. If they want their building painted with a mural, they can do that. And they're paying these artists to do that. But I've heard from people of diverse groups who are like, when I was looking around for a place to live, when I saw those murals, Monona felt like home to me. I knew this is where I wanted to be. Because it speaks to a different crowd, right? It's not, you don't typically see that in all white communities.
Yeah.
And so just for information, our diversity numbers are dropping. So we were at about 4.5%, and we're now down to like 4.4% diversity.
Okay.
So we are losing diversity. A lot of that had to do with COVID, but also our housing costs, very expensive. And so I think there's a lot of things we need to do. Number one, we need representation.
Yeah.
So, as a biracial person, my dad's Ojibwe and my mom is white. I was the first person ever that's, a non-white individual to ever run for office in Monona or serve. And, wow, that was 2020. I mean, come on. So, I think representation and, trying to make some space for people of different backgrounds. Sometimes I feel like people didn't want me there. And that was unfortunate. Because I feel like my perspective is so different from everyone else on the council and probably on all of our committees. That it's a valuable perspective because it is a perspective other people share. And so I think that, but it's also really in all of our financial decisions, thinking about that, having an awareness. But once again, that takes representation. You can't just always know what diverse communities want, you know, and we can do all the trainings and read as many books as possible, but there's nothing like lived experience and having someone with that voice at the table. So I'm bringing my own chair. That's a Shirley Chisholm quote: "Is if there's not a seat for you at the table, bring your own chair." And I'm a big believer in that. That's what I'm doing. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And then I want to move on to the next page. So as a smaller community, there are just some things we can't do on our own.
Absolutely.
And so my question with that is, what ideas and goals do you have for creating partnerships with other communities?
Yeah. Oh, I got some good ones, and I'll try to keep it short.
Okay.
But this could be a hour-long answer for me, so I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So one example on that would be with our property assessment process. So right now we contract out to a company, I believe, I always get it confused if they're in Fond du Lac or Neenah, but it's Accurate Assessors. And they don't really seem to know our community, because they're from up north, and I've noticed that their assessments are about 20% low as well across the board. Our home values are higher. So that's impacting our tax revenue and what we are using to spend money on, so in our budget. So I've talked with the Fitchburg mayor about this, and this is a great opportunity for collaboration. So they have a 5-person team over there in their assessment department.
Oh, wow.
And so he told me, he said, we have space. If you would want to contract and have shared services, we could have a couple of our assessors come on over and do your assessment process. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is, if you do any research on the future of small cities, a lot of it is shared resources like that, and we have like McFarland over here, and we have Fitchburg, 2 smaller communities right near us that we could collaborate with. But then, of course, we can't forget our Goliath in this David and Goliath situation, Madison, which is across the street. And we share a boundary right down Monona Drive and on Broadway with them. And so with Madison, I'm in a great position to work with them. Because, when I worked at the chamber, I did lead that rebrand effort to really build bridges. And we changed the name to the Monona East Side Business Alliance from the Monona Chamber. And there were a couple reasons for that. One was, in this East Side community, including Monona, in that I was getting a lot of pushback about a Chamber of Commerce. A lot of folks can have the misconception that a Chamber of Commerce is like a right-wing lobbying machine. Because that's what the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is. But your small chambers in your cities are very different, and I think most of them work to fit in their community and serve the needs of their communities the best they can. So changing that name just put us in a little more progressive position so people would be open to the idea. And then it also just, I reached out kind of open arms to the East Side community because Monona is just not big enough to have our own Chamber of Commerce. Even though we have this wonderful, robust business community, in order to have staff and to be able to do the work that we need to do, because we're right in we're right on the Madison edge. So it means like we have a lot more weight to carry, right? We're not like a rural community with 8,600 people.
No.
We're, I think a lot of people I talk to are very shocked to hear Monona's only 8,600 people. So I worked a lot with them. We did a lot of business walks. We did a lot of collaborative efforts, and that worked out great. So I think one example would be the bike path project. So Madison is planning to put in a permanent bike path, kind of in front of Old Brick Gardens. You know, the orange cones, and you saw that lake. So that's going to be permanent. Yeah. It's amazing, and it's going to be a protected lane.
Doing. Okay, now I know.
Yeah, it's going to be a protected lane. So it'll be like a bicycle highway for the Lake Loop and all the commuters. And so, unfortunately, I was working with the Madison Alder. He's also a big bicycle advocate. And we were working to bring Monona to the table because things had changed because of COVID.
Yeah.
So there was one plan put in place in 2019, but then Madison said, you know what, we need to do something different because now all these people are selling their cars and they're buying bicycles. Yeah. So we want to revise the plan. And so I had worked with the Madison Alder and Madison's Transportation, just talking it through and working to get Monona to the table. And it's probably one of the reasons I ran, actually, because Monona would not come to the table. And so the project was killed. And so what will happen now, instead of that bike path going in front of the East Side Club and all the way to Cottage Grove Road, is right at the Monona boundary by East Side Club. It will cross all of the highway lanes and it will go to the Madison side of the street, which is where Michael's Frozen Custard is. And so the bike path will then go on that side, and then it will cross again at Cottage Grove Road.
Okay.
And then we'll have the small lane on Monona Drive, which you see not many people use it because it can be scary. You're riding with cars going 40 miles an hour and you're protected by a strip of paint.
Yeah.
So, so someone like where I live, I'm on the north end of Monona, I still can't ride bikes with my kids to Old Brick Park or Old Brick Gardens, without taking some very long route.
Yeah.
And so it's just devastating to us that to a lot of the cyclists and the young parents in town that project was killed. Because now we have two conflict points of crossing all of that traffic. And then the people who live along that stretch, the homes, they wanted it because it helps organize the chaos. Yeah. And it also, it will increase their property value, if they have a bike path right in front of their homes.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then it also has implications on San Damiano because there's not much parking there, and we don't want to put a giant parking lot there. And so we want to encourage cycling. So having that path go to Cottage Grove Road would have led to a future project of then having it continue to San Damiano. So there was space there. You might hear people say, nope, there wasn't enough space, we couldn't do it. And just seeing how nimble Madison was and that we weren't able to be nimble in that way is just a real, it's a real bummer. And this is transportation equity. This is, the basics of that.
Okay.
So that's another one. So now if we want to take on that project ourselves, it's going to be far more costly because we were going to use Madison's designers, Madison's contractors, their engineers. They have a whole staff of engineers. Yeah. Now we have to do that project entirely on our own. So what would have been a few $100,000 would now be, over $1 million easily.
Oh, wow.
And we did have the ARPA funds. That's the American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Okay.
We had about $844,000 in ARPA funds given to our city. All cities in America received ARPA funds.
Oh.
And so it was just like, a gift to us to help us through the COVID shutdown time. We didn't really do a lot of planning on what to do with those funds. And I wanted to see us do a budget town hall. How do you want these funds spent? And I'd asked for that a few times when I was an alder, but we just didn't get it there. So we just kind of chipping away at that amount. And I felt like this would have been a perfect opportunity to use those ARPA funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a couple things there. Yeah. I could go on and on. There's lots of ways we could collaborate with Madison.
Thank you for giving various examples regarding to that question.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. It's a great question.
And then my next question is, Monona in danger of neglecting any areas?
Yeah.
It is?
Well,
Okay.
I would say Southtown area.
Southtown, okay.
Yeah. And, I work a lot with not a lot, but I've worked with the Bridge Lake Point Monona Neighborhood
Yeah.
Center, which is right across the
Yep.
street from there. And they're on a capital campaign to, build a new center, and they've got a new executive director. It's a really exciting time for
Okay.
them. So I've given them bicycles in the
Yeah.
past. And
So why do you think it's endangered?
well, I mean, really, you just have to look at it.
Okay.
So, like, Floor and Decor went
Yes.
into the empty Shopco space,
Yes.
and they were supposed to put in an all new parking lot, and that still hasn't happened. So,
Oh.
that was one of the requirements in their approval, was they would redesign that parking lot, and that hasn't happened.
Okay.
We do have a couple new stores planning to come in
Okay.
for where the Hobby Lobby was.
Okay. Do you know
Five below zero.
Okay,
Five
Five
below.
Below.
I was gonna say Five
Okay.
Below Zero. Five Below. Thank you. My daughter
Yeah.
loves that store.
Yeah.
And then another good one. Oh, Michael's Crafts.
Oh,
Michael's
yes.
Crafts.
Yeah. So we're replacing Hobby Lobby with Michael.
Yeah. So people will be very stoked
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good shift.
Yeah.
But it's it's a huge opportunity for us as one of the best last developable sites right on the Beltline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one exit from Alliant Energy Center.
Yeah.
It's a massive opportunity.
It is.
So, and I know a lot of those folks. So, like, it's many owners. So that's one of the challenges with that property.
Uh-huh.
It's not just one owner. And a lot of people, a lot of cities have that, where they've got a big
Yeah.
development, one owner. So it's very easy to get the development process moving.
That makes
This
sense.
one, boy, it's easily at least 6 people, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I do know the main owner. He owns the middle section.
Okay.
He lives in Chicago, and I know
Okay.
him from my chamber days. And he owns the buildings in the parking lot.
Okay.
He's someone I can call at any time and talk with him. But that's another thing that's high on my priority list, is where that project starts is pulling all of those owners together to sit down at a table and
Yeah.
talk about a vision for the future.
That makes sense. Get everyone on the same page.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And just, it's about creating a shared vision
Mhm.
and getting buy-in. And so even though the city wouldn't control the property,
Okay.
we could just get them to see that this will benefit all of you if we work together to redevelop this site.
So to organize it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And working
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
open communication,
Yeah.
setting a plan and a vision by, polling all the stakeholders in that area
Yeah.
and the community members to find out what would you want to see there.
Yeah.
Oh, it would
Wow.
be so exciting.
Yeah, that
You know,
would be.
And so some of the ideas are like kind of like our own style of a mini Hilldale. So something like that.
Oh, I do like Hilda.
I know. And I mean, it could be, I picture it almost as a food and
Yeah.
art and music cultural hub.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it could be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
So
see.
that's one I feel like, and it's that south end of town. And I think some people would say the south end is a little bit neglected.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next one is you kind of touched base on it with the housing.
Yeah.
So this is a nationwide issue.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
But with that being said, with the housing, how would you ensure that the taxes don't keep increasing on the property taxes?
Yeah, well, we're actually we've reached our levy limit.
Okay.
So we really can't raise taxes much more.
That's good to know.
It is. It's good, and it's one of those things where it puts us in a tight spot.
Yeah.
Because now we can't raise them. Well, we want to be careful on that.
Yeah.
But we also can't raise them to get more revenue to do our services, our basic services.
Okay.
So we've got to be creative.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it's finding areas where we can trim and make some cuts.
Yeah.
And that's not easy when our budget's as tight as it is.
Mhm.
We've got a lot of big things on our doorstep. The public safety building, we
Yeah.
must get that built. We've
Yeah.
been talking about it for close to 20 years.
Yeah.
It only gets more and more expensive as we wait. So
Yeah.
that's an absolute priority for me. I want to build that public safety building. At the $15 million price. That's 15, because a new building has been proposed for $50 million,
Wow.
including City Hall, and doing it all
Okay.
as one.
Okay.
So, and I'm certain there is a way we could do an incremental project there. So let's address the police department and the fire department now, and then plan for a future, City Hall.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think we necessarily need to take that all in at one time. So
Okay.
can you remind me of the question again? I think
Yeah,
I got
no,
off
you
track.
did answer it. The question was, what are your plans to keep property taxes down?
Yeah, well, the other one is we have to have net new construction. So we should have shovels in the ground at all times. Here.
Okay.
And, we've got lots of opportunities, even though it's all infill development. So, we don't have cornfields we can develop, which I actually think is a good thing, because a lot of times cities just keep putting suburbs and more roads and more water mains, and they create a lot of overhead and infrastructure to maintain, and potentially a lot of problems. Now you need to increase your police department, your fire department, all of that. So I like the fact that we're hemmed in, because it makes us go up. It makes us, think about density and being responsible and using every inch of this land in a really responsible and good way.
Does Monona have a height limit like Madison does?
We don't. I don't believe we do technically on the books.
Okay.
But we haven't gone higher than 4 stories, I think, or 4 or 5 at the current. It used to be Tracesta, now Yahara Terrace. That was our first tall one. Then we did the current. And so now there's one planned that it hasn't been passed yet, but right across the street from my house, and that's a 4-story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, that's palatable. Like Fairway Glen is a beautiful example of, where it's a little more, a little smaller, but we got density there. It's a smallish footprint.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of areas in the city. If you just drive down Monona Drive, you can see a lot of vacant lots or abandoned, not a lot of big abandoned buildings, but buildings that could, I think of 5011 Monona Drive, which is, can you picture it? It's that brick box.
Oh,
it's been sitting there empty for, as long as I've been there, so over a decade. And it's a prime site, and so I want to see something happen there too.
Yeah.
But then think of Broadway. Lots of opportunities down on Broadway.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
So, let's get some development going.
Okay. And then kind of going off of that, springboarding onto that question, if you could develop a new business or add a new business to Monona, what would it be and where would you put it?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I'm an art supporter, and I've been an artist my whole life. So, you know what it is? It's one, I don't know if you'll ever have heard of it. Have you ever heard of the organization started in Santa Fe called Meow Wolf?
Meow Wolf? No,
Meow Wolf. Oh, it's this fantastic art experience. And what it was, I think it was back in the 70s or the early 80s. 30 artists acquired a vacant bowling alley.
Okay.
And they all divvied up a section and decided to design a room.
Oh.
And it would all be very different. And so if you go to Santa Fe, you walk in and there's like a little bar area, kind of a family like pizza area. You get your 3D glasses, and then you walk down this hallway filled with street art, and it's this 3D thing.
Okay.
And you walk in and you will be in a kitchen that's almost painted like an MC Escher painting, so black and white, very funky.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to get out. And lo and behold, you open the refrigerator and it's a slide.
Oh.
And then you go there, and now you're dumped out into the middle of a spaceship.
Oh wow!
And so it's just this after this after this after this. And the other cool thing about it is one of the rooms looks like you're in a saloon. Looks a lot like High Noon Saloon. So it's like a Western saloon.
Okay.
And so because Meow Wolf is only open like 3 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
They use that saloon area as an event space.
Okay.
So local schools use it for art projects and art education. And then it's also a concert venue at night.
Nice.
So when Meow Wolf shuts down. So it's kind of got this multi-purpose, but
nice.
It's an incredible destination.
Right.
And they're expanding. And so I called them. I've already started the conversation. And I was like, we have a phenomenal opportunity here. Because I feel like being one exit from Alliant Energy.
Yeah, that would be an attraction.
Ironman, CrossFit. All these people are looking for things to do. And it's right there. It's on the bus line. Very easy. So it could be one of the because if we redevelop Southtown, we have to have a destination business there as part of the mix. And something like that would be fantastic.
Wow. Okay, now I'm kind of intrigued.
Go to YouTube and check it out, because it's just videos of galore on all the coolness about it.
Okay. Wow. Well, now I'm excited about that. Okay,
And a future trip, you'll have to go to Santa Fe and check it out yourself.
Yeah. Well, my dad will be all excited for that. He loves California.
Oh, yeah, excellent.
Okay. So, another one is, can you describe, you already did this kind of in the beginning, but can you describe your contributions you've made towards Monona?
Yeah, working at the chamber for a while, I was able to really contribute in a lot of ways, and it was a variety, right? It was a lot of marketing of the city, like creating the magazine, the Guide to Monona.
Okay.
So I used to do all the photography, the copywriting, and all the design on that myself, and the editing, and handling the printing and everything, and the distribution. And so that, there's that. Then I created the Monona Lake Loop map, which was really great because I was a cartographer. So I'm very into making maps. And so that was really helpful for the bike community, and really highlighting our businesses and trying to get them, encourage them to veer off the Lake Loop and stop and support our local businesses. I did the Earth Day cleanup. And so, we'd have like 60 to 100 business owners and their staff out cleaning our beaches and our streets in April, and after the snow melt, that always needs to be done. I led a committee. I built a committee of 21 people, and it was all kinds of stakeholders, from Ho Chunk Gaming to Garver Feed Mill to residents in Monona, and it was a tourism assessment. And this was in collaboration with the Wisconsin Department of Tourism, where we went through and we basically developed an inventory of our tourist assets. So, because, here we have tourism funding now, and, wanting to have some direction, and where do we allocate these funds? Who do we give the money to? That's a city committee that decides that. And so, really, it hasn't been done yet, but we need probably the next staff person of the chamber, which they're in the hiring process right now, will develop a tourism plan. And so, how are you going to promote these things? Like some of the things I promoted were our ice fishing. We have a great lake out here for fishing, and I grew up fishing, and that's very big in my family. And so, I think some people wouldn't think of that as an asset, but it is. It's a big one, and it's a big driver to people in our hotels. So those things. Oh, and then most recently, the Vibrant Hydrant Project. Have you seen the hydrants? Okay, so
colorful fire hydrants.
And I think, so it's, we took 15 hydrants and made a mini mural. And I think some people think that the city paid for that, but they didn't. Myself and this woman from Madison Public Art Project, Jillian, we did all the fundraising for that. And so that was a beautification project that cost the city nothing. And it's created a really nice buzz, and it's made us unique in a little way. And and it was also an awesome collaboration with our fire department. And we had this beautiful 9/11 ceremony where we, all the artists talked about their inspiration behind their hydrant. And a lot of those, like when you see the butterflies on the top or the stars, it's about the souls that were leaving the tower that day. And so it was incredibly moving. It was a beautiful come together moment, and something I'm really proud of. I think it just is a really cool thing. So those things, and then like if you think about when I was in Alder, I was the one that really got us moving to going onto Zoom and getting into a hybrid, situation. So we could keep access. People in the public could have access to our meetings
during the pandemic.
Exactly. And now we're still continuing those. A lot of those meetings are hybrid. And that's huge. Because these are public meetings, and so it should be accessible.
It should be.
So that was one thing. Certainly, there's the diversity initiatives and that DEI committee. I worked on the committee, but I also designed the report and did all the photography in the report. So it's got some good stuff. I think those are some of the things I did. So,
And then I was wondering, how would you? So people have wonderful ideas. Now, how would you, as a mayor, assess a project that has been brought to you?
Oh boy, Well, I think starting point is maybe taking it to a committee, and so here's a good example of this is like government work at its highest level is our dog park. Okay, so I got this dog a year ago. We're about a 1 year anniversary for Milo here. And so I started becoming a user of the Monona Dog Park.
Okay.
And so when I got there, I realized, my first day actually, there's a couple picnic tables there, a couple chairs, and there's one bench.
Okay.
The bench is the only permanent fixture there.
Oh.
And so I was sitting there, and it was a hot summer day, and all of a sudden I was sitting on the end of the bench. I felt my leg getting wet.
Oh.
And I was getting peed on.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And what I realized was, after that was, the dogs have nowhere to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
And so they all go to the bathroom on all the chairs and tables, and on that bench especially.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people like sit on the end of the bench, and I was like looking across going, oh no. And then I saw it happen to them, and I'm like, oh. So, it wasn't just me, but
not just you.
so I'm like, okay, we need a feature in this park.
Yeah.
A boulder is what we need, know.
Okay.
And so then I started looking at what are the other little improvements we could make here that are very minimal cost to the city. And I realized there's no signage about the rules and regulations at the dog park.
Okay.
And this is probably the only dog park probably in the area that doesn't have signage.
Okay.
Because those can lead to problems and conflicts, right? When you don't have the rules posted.
Okay.
Even though most of this is common sense is not common, and so you have to have the rules posted, right? And so then I also started talking with people at the dog park, asking them what would you want to see as far as a small improvement, and some want a tree for shade by the bench because sometimes in the summer it's too hot over there. The big issue that I noticed right away was that the parking is on the opposite side of the street as the dog park.
Oh.
So when you pull up, you get out of your car, and now we're on Edna Taylor, and people are whipping in from Femrite.
Yeah.
And you've got a very excited dog. For me, I had little kids in tow, and we have to get across this street with car traffic and a very excited dog. And there was close calls, and I see close calls all the time.
Okay.
So I held the Monona Dog Days event, and I had kind of, not a petition, but I had a form, like, would you like to see these projects done?
Okay.
And what's your priority? What would you want to see the most? People wanted to see the parking switched to the other side of the street.
Because of safety.
Exactly. Really big deal. And we have some people who are mobility challenged that use the park.
Okay.
So now imagine how difficult it is for me getting across. Imagine if you use a walker. Or you're using a cane and you have two dogs, and we have people doing that. And so really a major safety issue. So then I took that to the city council, and I laid out the plan. I showed them 37 signatures of support, and I just told them I'm going to be going to these committees to present this. That would be Public Works and Parks.
Yeah.
And so the reason I took that to city council is because each council member is on a different committee.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't taken it to city council, all the council members might not have known this was happening. So it's like, that's a good starting point.
Yeah.
Take it to city council so everyone's aware, and then you don't have to call each one individually or email everybody individually. Then I went to Public Works Committee and I presented, and then I went to the Parks Board and presented. And so lo and behold, Public Works told me they have a boulder sitting there in their parking lot right next door that's unused.
Oh.
So, 2 weeks later, they dropped it in.
Yeah.
And, the first time I walked into the park, there were 4 young male dogs all using that rock. And I was like, took a picture. I'm like, it's getting its use. And then they're right now in the process of getting the parking switched over.
Okay.
So the new signposts are in, the signs aren't mounted.
Yeah.
But it went through all these processes and the committees discussed it. And so this is government at its best.
Yeah.
And it was just a great experience working with our Public Works crew on that. And that's a major safety issue. I mean, I really feel like this is something where, someone's life might have been saved, and these basic things. So,
All because of him.
Yeah! Finally sleeping. Yay!
And then my last question
Okay.
that I always love to ask is, what is your favorite part of Monona?
Oh, well, I was thinking, do you mean like geographically or what it is I
Just
love?
like any part of Monona.
You
Like,
know what
what's your favorite?
Well, what I love really is more just the small town vibe of
Okay.
Monona.
Okay.
I love that. As I said, I grew up on an island with 1,000 people. I'm a small town girl. I love when I'm walking Milo. Everybody's waving.
Yeah.
I get people beeping, pulling
Yeah.
over. Hey, how's it going?
That sense of community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful,
It is.
especially in this ecosystem where we're becoming more disconnected and we're not
Unfortunately.
having, social media. We're having conversations there versus in person. And so I love that about Monona. I think that's my favorite. Otherwise I love how close we are to the lake and like all the wonderful things of the east side and and we're just arm's reach away from all of it. But we're kind of insular.
Yeah. Wow, this was a great interview. Thank you so much, Kristie. How can they connect with you to get more information or if they have their own questions?
Oh, love it. Great question, too. My website is goforthmonona.com. I have a contact page and you can reach out. But my email is info@goforthmonona.com. So feel free to reach out. I'm always open to talking about the city. I love the city. And so, I'm always excited to talk about it. People are like, shut that off, Kristie. Let's talk about something else. But I love talking about Monona.
Yeah, well, thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
So good to see you. Thanks.